So improv in business presentations, I think should be more planned. Okay? Although you can react to something, question, and use some humor. But I think improv is more like with your team. You're having discussions. You talk about something funny. You interject. I think everybody enjoys making somebody laugh, right?
Yeah.
And I think everyone probably has made somebody laugh. Even the most introverted person in the world has probably made a friend laugh or a parent laugh, and it always feels good. Okay, not saying that everybody can do it, but I think everybody can increase their awareness and maybe try to use humor a little bit more. Okay.
This episode is brought to you by Green Skies Analytics, an audit analytics service provider that works with internal audit departments that have data analysts and are still frustrated with trying to make analytics actually work, aren't getting the expected ROI, who can't break through the communication barrier between the analysts and the audit team, and those that need experienced direction for an audit analytics strategy and process. Those that feel like they've wasted time and money on trainings, aren't getting the value they want, not prioritizing the highest risk areas for the organizations, or have projects that seemingly never get completed. Do you deal with any of that? If you do, go to the show notes of this episode and click the Green Skies Analytics link, or go to greenskiesanalytics.com to schedule a call and understand how Green Skies Analytics makes analytics actually work for internal audit. This episode is brought to you by Supervisor. Supervisor is a ready-to-use audit analytics platform that integrates with your ERP and any other systems you have to provide actual continuous monitoring for risk across all your transactions. They have more than 350 out-of-the-box checks and analytics to enable your team to perform full population testing, detect multiple types of anomalies, and identify potential fraudulent activity. That's going to give you an unparalleled level of assurance in your financial processes. Built by internal audit and accounting experts, so your team can get value from the first day of usage. So imagine having no analytics today, walking in tomorrow, and having up to 350 audit analytics already run. You don't have to necessarily take my word for it, though. Global organizations such as IKEA, Michelin, Lacoste, and numerous others trust Supervisor to enhance their audit capabilities and increase their assurance.
This podcast is also brought to you by Audit Board, the leading cloud-based platform transforming how enterprises manage risk. Audit Board's integrated suite of easy-to-use audit, risk, and compliance solutions streamlines internal audit, SOX compliance, risk management, and security compliance. Automate processes and improve execution with Audit Board's purpose-built solution, which is designed to address the most pressing challenges of today's practitioners. Experience the latest in audit, risk, and compliance technology. Visit auditboard.com to schedule your product walkthrough to see Audit Board's award-winning platform in action today.
Hey everybody, before we jump into the show, I just want to let you know that the Audit Analytics and AI Conference is September 25th and 26th this year. It's all virtual, so no matter where you are in the world, you can absolutely attend. Recordings are also available, so if you are 12 hours away and don't want to be up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, you can purchase the recordings. This is the only conference that's strictly about analytics and AI for internal audit. So you're going to get your practitioners' use cases. This thing is practitioner-led, save for one speaker that we had this year, but everyone else is in your peer group, ranging from the largest internal audit data analytics teams in the world down to the individual contributor who spends, hey, I got 50% of my time I can dedicate towards analytics. Each speaker mission is to show you how to actually do what they are talking about. So thought leadership is great, and there will certainly be some of that, but for the most part, that's great. We love the thought leadership. Show us how to actually do it. We are currently at 19 speakers and counting, so we're going to add a few more, and you can get up to 19 CPEs if you attend. Check out the link in the show notes, or you can search for Google the auditanalyticsconference.com, and you can register there. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Audit Podcast. Today on the show, we have Mike Lynn. He does QA reviews and ERM consulting as the owner at Audit, Risk, and Governance Oversight, aka Argo. He just rotated off the IAA Global Board in June, but he's still super active in his local New York chapter. He teaches advanced internal auditing at St. John's, and the main reason that he was on the show today is he was voted funniest accountant in America. The IA did this profile of sorts on Mike and published it. And so that's how I came across Mike. You can read that profile. There's a link in the show notes, so you can check that out. But that's really why I wanted to have him on, was basically like, hey, come interject some humor into this audit podcast that we have going on. Because of that, he's also developing a course on using humor in business. And so if you're interested in that, if you have, training budget and all that kind of good stuff, looking to bring some folks in, whether it's your IA chapter or within your organization or something like that, reach out to Mike on LinkedIn so you can get that scheduled and have him speak to you. Last thing, through Mike's admission, he is a New Yorker, so he talks very fast. And so if a lot of podcast platforms let you listen to a podcast at like 1.5 X speed or 2X speed or something like that. If you typically do that, don't, because it's going to be at like 8X for Mike's sections anyway. So maybe hold off on that. But again, like most of what we wanted to talk about was his career in internal audit and working with auditors, but then how he's able to interject humor in there. And I was just curious in general, like how do you go from audit to stand-up? So he actually had a bit of a stand-up career. And so I just wanted to understand that story and get Mike's background. And then a lot of it came through his, kind of the genesis of it was through this improv class that he took. And there's a lot of value in being able to improv, especially if you're in front of a board or something to that effect. So we wanted to get that also. And then Mike has this fantastic story about how he made an executive committee laugh. And so he tells that story, the joke, the tagline, it's great. But then more so importantly is the outcome of that and what interjecting a little bit of humor, even if it's not knee slapping, crying from laughing so hard type of humor, which I kind of thought, a couple of Mike's jokes were, but nonetheless, the power of humor, especially in stuffy situations. That's where I think we probably tend to enjoy it the most. The more uptight the situation, the more I look to interject humor just to relax everybody a little bit. And so Mike, being the expert, definitely share some tips on that. So if you are in need of a laugh today, then this is the episode for you. Here we go. All right, I think there's probably a lot of folks that are going, why is there a former comedian, stand-up comedian on the Audit podcast? And we will get into that a little bit more later. But tell us a story around your stand-up career, how you got started and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Trent. And again, the purpose of this is just to kind of go over some of that. But there was an article in LinkedIn on it from the IA magazine, again, just showing that auditors are not always just cookie cutter impressions. We have different interests, and so I'll mention my experience doing stand-up back in the late 80s and the early 90s. The article that was written in the IA magazine, it emanated from me reading an article on Helen Lee, who is a CAE out, I believe it's Singapore, and she had an article on doing the tango and winning competitions. I met her once, and she was so conservative that seeing her in those pictures, I said, that's interesting. And I just mentioned that I done some comedy to someone at the IA, and they asked me if I would do a similar article on that. So basically, I'll start from kind of the beginning. I've always enjoyed laughing, getting a laugh, whether it be in school or, with friends, was always really important to me. And also laughing. Okay. So if someone's funny, I enjoy it. So when I went to college, I was going to first be a doctor, okay, but being firstborn immigrant son in the U.S., when I heard it was 8 years of school and a lot of money, I got scared, thought about engineering. Third choice was doing art, because I paint and draw, and I've always had an artistic side. And I actually defaulted to business, and I found accounting and finance kind of two disciplines that to me were very easy to learn, logical. And I decided I could, have a career in that. My friends were actually quite surprised, because the stereotype of an accountant, I probably didn't fill. So I went in there, knowing that, but I wanted to have a career. I wanted to make a living, and just like art, I decided I could do things like that that are creative on the side. And I started, using humor as much as I could in business environment. My first job was at Arthur Young, which is Ernst & Young now. My first year or two had some great learning experiences, some great teams, a lot of friends. Learned a lot. But what was really important was that we would annually have a golf outing, and we do some entertainment on that. I would do a clarinet routine. We do some newscasts. A lot of funny stuff where we could talk about people in the firm. And we also had a lot of going away parties during the year. And I ended up participating as an MC, roasting people as they left. So when I reflected upon my career, when I left Arthur Young after about 7 years, the thing I was most joyous about was the feedback I always got on, making people laugh and being kind of thought of as a funny or creative guy. I made that part of my who I was. And I think people who worked for me, with me, and above me, they enjoyed that I would bring levity to situations. And I think it probably helped my promotion, things like that. So when I left Arthur Young, I went to J.P. Morgan as a role as a senior financial analyst. I'm with people who were outside a CPA firm. And I found there that, I still was able to make people laugh. I thought maybe being funny in a CPA firm, I was just an average person. But when I was surrounded by people who were not in accounting, I still had used humor a lot. And I think it was appreciated for that. So one day, a colleague of mine, there's a woman, kind of funny herself. Her name was Kim. I won't go into any last names. But she said, Mike, she was actually divorced. She got married at 29 and at 30 was divorced. And so she was looking for Mr. Right, again. She talked to me about how to meet guys. And one day she came in and said, Mike, I'm going to take this course at the new school in the village with Lori, one of my friends there. And we're going to try to meet guys by taking a history of baseball, part 1. And I said, history of baseball? What are you looking? You're going to meet nerds, let me see that catalog. So I saw the catalog of the new school, which is a pretty progressive school and Archie school back then. And I saw some things on comedy writing, improv. I said, listen, you should take a course, an improv course or something like that. You'll more likely to meet guys who are fun. And she goes, that's a great idea. I'll do that, but would you take it with me? And I said, well, I've always wanted to do that. So I took an improv class with her. And first day at class, it was Tuesday evenings at the new school. I went to the first class. It was about 20 people and a professor who was actually an ex-Catskill comedian lawyer. But in the class, about 25% were students, 25% were people who were actually interested in doing stand-up, and about the other 50% were actually professionals, like lawyers, accountants, who actually wanted to improve their presentation skills and being able to think on their feet, and say things, without being written in front of them. And so they thought there'd be some benefit to learning improv more. And I was at that place also. So we took the course. It went very well. The professor liked me a lot. So we used to go out to comedy clubs afterwards, some stand up and things like that. So one of the assignments was just to write a 3-minute routine on anything that was exaggerated. So I did something. It went over very well in class. It was only a few minutes. But I had a repetition in class that, Mike's pretty funny. So about a week later, after I did that presentation, that little bit of stand-up, one person in class said, Mike, we saw an advertisement for the funniest accountant in America, a contest by this executive recruiting firm in New York City. It's a national contest. They're looking for people to send in routines from around the country. You should send in your routine. So I said, well, maybe, but I don't want to do accounting jokes. If I do it, it's going to be about, things that are really funny, not just accounting humor. So I wrote to them and they said, it doesn't have to be about accounting or accounting jokes. As long as you're a CPA or an accountant, you can do it. So I submitted my routine. I got selected, and I was able to present it at the Comic Strip in New York City. Comic Strip on 82nd Street, a pretty well-known place. The manager who I met, Lucian Hold, was quite famous. He discovered Tom Hanks and a bunch of other people, Eddie Murphy, and he was very nice to me. And the first night, there were 2 shows. I won one show, and for funniest accountant. It was voted on by the judges and based upon audience response. And it felt pretty good, and so I did that. It was an accomplishment. I did it, and I decided, let me try to do some stand-up open mic nights during the year. I would try to do a few, and I did. But the manager suggested that I come back and perform some regular nights. Now not for money. He said it's not for money, but not it's only by invite. So you seem to have some pretty funny stuff if you want to try it out. So I did, and again, this was actually a year later after a second contest that I was in. He asked me, he made me that offer. So I did stand up, at the comic strip a couple of regular nights, Tuesday nights, not that crowded, and I had a routine that I used for the accounting contest about 7-8 minutes, but I wanted to get that longer, so I increased the content to about 15 minutes, and I went out on stage, paying audience, not very crowded at all. When I did the stand up at the comic strip for the contest, there was about 250 people. Okay.
Cool.
The night I performed, there was 25 people. Okay. and one family from Iowa. Some of my humor was cute blue. So I go out there, I'm ready to do full 15 minutes, did my first joke or hook, and I was used to a very good response from a lot of people. And what I found out was if Jay Leno did his routine for the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in front of a big audience, it goes over very well. If they did the exact same routine in a small venue to 25 people, it wouldn't go over as well. Okay, people kind of expect you to talk to the table. Again, what I found was that if you get a couple people to laugh first with that hook, then other people start listening. Well, so I went out there. First show I didn't go over as well, and I said, well, Mike, should I do improv and just talk to the tables, or do I stick with my routine that's new? And I guess I kind of decided, well, let me stick with some new material. I know I'll get some laughs, but let me try some new stuff. And I went through it, and it ended up getting some laughs. It wasn't terrible, but I didn't feel the same, excitement. I felt like I could have done better. Boom, boom, boom. I got off the stage, and Lucian Hole asked me, Mike, how do you feel? I go, it wasn't as easy as I thought. I probably should have talked to the tables more. And then I went and watched some professional comedians do their routines. And again, they were good, but the audience wasn't that great. But even though I don't want to blame the audience, it wasn't a great feeling. And I realized that I needed to learn to work the tables, talk to the tables. I know I could do it because I've done improv exercises and a lot of things. Was always kind of quick, and but at the time I wasn't mentally prepared to do improv, which sounds weird, right? You should be able to do improv, but when you do improv, I'm going in to do improv, and I'm going to let things go, right? But I had a choice here, and I decided to stick with my routine. So wasn't it didn't go quite as well as I wanted. I felt like to do better, but what I really felt was I needed to do it maybe 2 times a week for 3-4 months, just talking to the tables before I could really build upon and feel confident. And I just didn't have the time. I had my 3rd young son. I was working with Dun & Bradstreet, traveling international, and I just didn't have enough time to invest in it. And I said to myself, okay, you've done some nice things here. Maybe you come back to it someday. And I still plan to maybe do some stand-up in the future now that I'm a little more free time. So one thing I did do to kind of help me get away from performing stand-up and deciding missing that a lot was I started to do some comedy writing, and I wrote a spec script for Cheers, and I got Paramount to read it. It was an interesting process. They liked it, and they asked me to stay in touch because my premise had Sam and getting together Raquel and but it's a 3-month lag between production and stuff. And so by the time they read it, they had already gone that way. And so they said nice elements, but the strategy of it's a little bit different now. But I felt like it was good feedback. But I also realized that it was a lot of work and a lot of time, and I still couldn't really give the time I needed. So So again, I just decided, well, I might just enjoy humor when you can with your friends, and especially at work. And so I've often used humor at work. One, to maybe build team camaraderie. Two, to get some recognition. People think of you as a regular person. Three, to be more relatable. And I'll go into a few other things on that. But that was the quick nutshell story of some of my stand-up. But so I performed also a stand-up in New York. A number of times I did stand-up in New York City, and at the time it was quite different. You didn't find a lot of people doing that. But
I think the burning question is, especially for the single folks, did the relationship advice you gave of go to an improv class to meet someone? I think Kim was the name. Did that
Kim,
work for Kim? Or
well, it actually did it directly, okay. But she was actually a very, very funny woman, and we just had a good time and going to class. And but yeah, I will probably talk about improv a little bit later. Maybe we talk about that a little bit. But as I said, being able to think on your feet, talk with confidence, maybe observational humor, crack a joke, say something that's just unique or a different swing. Those skills are important to have.
Yeah,
and not everybody can be a stand-up comedy. Not everybody can use humor at work. But we all can get better at it, and maybe use a little bit more, be a little more appreciative of it. Because just laughing is good for you. So
yeah, I agree. Trying to listen to it on Alexa. Often I'll say just play stand-up comedy, and she'll play stuff. By now I've heard most of it, or especially the XM stuff. I always check those out. Or if there's a new stand-up special on Netflix, I usually check that out. There was recently a one. I can't think of the guy's name, so this isn't a great story, but he was really good. So whoever the most recent one is, it's not Matt Rife. It was the one just before that, for those that are interested. But I think maybe some practical advice. I had read this, so the first time I ever did a IA training type thing, and it wasn't IA, but it was through ACUA, which is the Higher Education Internal Audit Group. Yeah, and that was the first in-person type session that I ever led. And so I was doing research on how to deliver those types of trainings and things like that. And one person said, like, hey, if you got a joke, try it on someone else first and get their opinion. Don't go in there and just tell it. And so I went, yeah, whatever. But the whole setup was basically, I forget exactly, but it was me and my business partner doing the session. And we had some kind of segue where it was like, hey, now you'll be like a hero riding in on the back of a unicorn to come save the day now that you know analytics or something. This is 18 years ago. Something along those lines. I was like, oh, it'd be super funny is if we put like our heads on like a knight's body, and then it was, they're riding a unicorn, and we'll show that. And so like I found somebody to do it for us on Photoshop, and I was like, this is going to kill. And it did not. It was terrible. I set it up, showed the slide. The timing was really well done, I think. And then it was just crickets in the whole thing. And it was just like, all right, let's just talk about ACL scripts for the rest of the so I went, okay, yeah, if you have a canned joke, make sure that you run it by somebody first and get their opinion. I really wish I would have asked my wife beforehand, because she definitely would have shut that down. But
yeah, well, that's a good observation. And I would say, the first thing is, test out what you're thinking about if you have any uncertainty, but really know the audience, because knowing the audience is key. Okay, and actually by even trying to understand the audience may lead to you thinking about something that's humorous. The other thing is, I would say, I've been places where someone would start off a presentation with a joke. Okay, but actually that's more difficult to do, because jokes. I'm not a joke teller. I'll tell something that's a joke, more of a storyteller. Okay, so telling a story at the beginning that has humor in it. Okay, I that's more my style, and I think that's easier. And that's something I recommend to people, is to look at your life. Find some stories in your life that that you thought would make people laugh. And maybe you can work those stories into some presentations you do, or in telling your team, or meeting somebody. I have a story where my three sons. The first one's named John, second one is Connor, and the third one is Tyler. My first wife, we argued over the first boy's first name. I want Michael John, which is my name. Okay, she's not. I don't want a junior, so we agreed on John Michael. And John means the image of God, right? She let me pick the name of my second boy, and being Irish heritage, I picked Connor, which is at the time 1987. It wasn't that popular. It's a pretty popular name now. And Connor means strong like a wolf. Okay, and so image of God for John, strong like a wolf. And third boy comes along a few years later, and my wife goes, I want to name him Tyler. It was her turn. And I said, well, Tyler, that's a girl's name. It's a boy's name too. And I said, how about Dylan? And she said, no, I want Tyler. I go, what does it mean? And she goes, I don't know. I go, well, you should know what it means. So I go look it up, what Tyler means. And I have John, image of God, Connor, strong like a wolf, Tyler, one who tiles. I said, that is not fair. We can't do Tyler. He's going to grow up loving bathrooms. I have no idea. So I never told him that story until he was about 17.
Yeah.
And he laughed at it. But
that's a great story,
right?
Yeah.
But in business, I'll give you an example. Because I did mention in the article, I talk a little more about using humor in business. One funny story. And again, this is going back 20 years. So there's been a change in humor in the last 25 years, a little more sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
But again, know your audience. People still appreciate, if you can tell something that's funny. Never punch down. Okay, so never joke somebody weaker than you or somebody below you. So that punching up works sometimes. A common enemy at the top that no one likes, or that helps. But one time, and the other thing is, if you've used humor in the past and it worked, okay, don't forget you can sometimes reuse that in a different way in another presentation for somebody else. Okay, so I had this one thing I did in a fairly context that I don't want to explain. So I'll give you a context. Second time I basically used a joke, and I was doing an expat assignment in London back in 1999. And I had two assignments. I was working for a large global insurance company. I'll say AXA, and I had two assignments on my expat assignment, which was 6 months or a year. One was to build a group audit function. We had a number of subsidiaries in the UK that merged together. They had no group audit function. Everyone was presenting separately. 3 different audit teams to the audit committee. They didn't like that. And so they said, Mike, can you come in and help us build a group audit team to pull together, make standards, decide how to make it easier for the audit committee. I said, that sounds great. And the other thing I said they wanted me to do was, at the time, ERM was becoming a required discipline for in a lot of financial services companies, banks, and insurance companies. And so risk management existed, but risk management in many companies was just buying insurance. Okay, but a formal risk management function was starting to be required by different regulators. Banking first, it was knocking on the door for insurance. So I had to do a presentation, kind of talking about the need for ERM discipline, and that we should invest in it, and some things we can do to start going in that direction. I needed to get approval from the CEO and the executive committee, and so I had a fairly short presentation. I didn't have a lot of time, and the group secretary, who was a very nice guy, Ian, but very very British, very formal, and also a little bit concerned about nervous, right? So I said, Mike, okay, you have 12 minutes for the presentation. You have 5 minutes, for talking about the group audit function, but you have only 7 minutes to present, this risk management proposal. Okay, so he told me. I said, that sounds fine. So as the week goes on before the presentation, Mike, he sees me in the hall. Only 7 minutes, to do the presentation for ERM. I go, that's fine. I'll make it short. Boom, boom, boom. And before the presentation comes, Mike, 7 minutes. So I get up there and I'm doing the presentation on risk management, and I say, I'm going to present new discipline, enterprise risk management. Ian, who was known to be a bit of a character, he told me I only have 7 minutes, but he's told me that every day for the last 2 weeks. And Mike, you only have 7 minutes, okay? He said it to me so many times, he started to sound like my wife on Saturday night. And so everyone started laughing, and it was actually 3 CEOs and a group CEO, and I got them all to laugh. Okay, and one of them said, well, if it's like your wife on Saturday night, then you only need 3 minutes. So I knew I had to, they appreciate it. They joke back. But again, this is something I had to persuade some people I didn't know. They had no idea about who I was. And I found from that point on, even for the rest of my expat assignment, they looked at me differently.
Right.
So this guy's, he's creative. He's not afraid to say things. He has a different perspective on things. And so again, today maybe you can't say that. I don't know. But it's pretty innocuous. And, I find today, punching up or wife jokes or husband jokes or spouse jokes, there's always some humor there. Okay?
Yeah. All right. Well, I definitely have a note. Just 7-minute joke is I'm going to find a way to work that in somewhere. I was hoping through this conversation, like ultimately obviously thought leadership and all that stuff's great for the audience, but I was like, all right, secretly I'm hoping I can just steal some of Mike's jokes and use them on my own or for my own. So that one is in the list for sure.
Okay.
Well,
right.
So usually a question we've been asking a lot of folks lately, and this is really just to get to know the guests themselves, maybe outside of the audit world or the professional world, although a lot of folks do speak to some level of what they're doing professionally. But I feel like we do know you pretty well as a person outside of the audit and the professor role that you have, the teaching role that you have. But I do like this question, so I'm going to ask you anyway. What's in your recently ChatGPT or your internet browsing history? What else is going on maybe outside the comedy world or the audit world for you?
Well, I mean, just like my story, it's not going to be directly related to audit, although there's something that relates to audit. Probably is the last thing I'll talk about. But I mean, just this week I was checking out the internet for LPGA women's golf results at the British Open, and I saw that Lydia Ko won, and so that was, I'm a big fan of hers, and of I like women's golf. I think they're great players, and I don't play a lot, but it's fun to watch. Yeah, I do watch men's golf too, but I was really curious. She had won the Olympics while I was on vacation. I just got back from a Scandinavian vacation, and last weekend I just didn't have time. I was down the shore, and I looked up at who won. I heard she won, so that's pretty good. She won the first tournament of the season, and again, big fan of hers. She has an interesting story. She's going to be the Hall of Fame, but she's only around, I think. I don't think she's 30, but she's sort of winning at 14 or 15 years old. Professional golf things, and she came to live in America and play professional golf at 15. And her coach, a new coach she got, tried to change her swing, and so he had her, you're not hitting it, quite as long as you should. But she was so great at like irons and dropping the ball, near the tee. They changed her swing, and she won. I think maybe in her first 2 years before the new coach, she won like 5 or 6 tournaments. She didn't win for 2 or 3 years, I heard that story. I felt bad for her, but through perseverance, she came back, and she's been a winner, for ever since, So she's a good player. I also I looked up the results of a UFC fight. I follow UFC. I was an ex-wrestler in high school and college, so UFC would have been a career choice. It existed back in my time. If you wrestled, when you graduated, you basically, you try to go to the Olympics, which very selective, or do professional wrestling, which is just fake. So and people will like that. Some people. Let's see what else. So I also was looking up. I go on YouTube a lot, and some stories on new research on Neanderthals and ancestry. So I have a big thing about understanding my ancestry. I do have a pretty high level of Neanderthal genes, which I want to brag about. I'm in the top 2%.
I think I would have stopped the research at that point and be like, I don't want to know any more about this.
Well, actually, Neanderthals had bigger brain cavities than human brains in Homo sapiens, but they were quite strong. But they didn't adapt quite as well as the Homo sapiens. I think they were basically they did small kinships of families, whereas I think Homo sapiens made towns and tribes, and I think that in itself beat it. But they actually they didn't just go extinct. They kind of breeded into the Europeans and the Asian side mostly.
Yeah, right? There's I just finished this book a couple of weeks or maybe 6-8 weeks ago, but I think it's called A Brief History of Time or something like that.
Yeah.
It's got like 40,000 reviews on Amazon, so it's a very popular book. I'm just terrible at remembering titles of books and especially authors, but talked about exactly what you were, talking about. And so at least the theory as of today, anyway.
Yeah. Yes. For a while, they didn't have the DNA. They got it, and it was so degraded. They said, "Oh, it's a separate species. There's no commonality, different branch." And then they started retesting it and getting more samples. They said, "Well, yeah, actually, it's hard to see exactly what the difference is, but they probably inbreeded with Homo sapiens over time." And then just a fourth thing, I was looking up some AI stuff, and I was read a few articles on AI and humor, and one article was really interesting. AI has become pretty advanced in humor. You can ask it to tell a joke, and so again, some suggestions or tips if you're thinking about trying to come up with a joke or something that you could tailor. Ask a ChatGPT for a joke or something, and they some of the jokes are actually kind of funny. But I would probably take the joke and then kind of work it into a story, just saying a joke. Although that does work sometimes, but you got to be pretty confident it's a good joke.
That was the first thing I did when we got an Alexa. The first thing I said, and it's not really, I guess it's kind of AI-ish, but I guess maybe dumb AI. But that first thing I asked her, I said, "Hey, Alexa, tell me a joke." And it did. And I went, "That's pretty funny. You can stick around." That's good.
Well, one article I read, I actually posted on LinkedIn, and it took a humor situation in The Simpsons, and it asked AI, some different tools, not just ChatGPT, why is this joke funny? And and they were able to explain, the incongruity, the surprise in the joke, or the reason why it was funny, pretty well. I was really surprised.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to try that out, especially the other end where it might be, like if I'm watching a stand-up with my wife and I laugh hysterically and she doesn't, then I might go, "Hey, why is this joke not funny to her?" I hadn't really thought about that. Okay, I really like that. I wasn't expecting that.
And that's actually using humor. Humor can be analyzed a lot, and it's good to analyze it. It gives you some different ideas. And one of the differences between humor and what makes you laugh is not the same thing. Okay, humor is kind of a subset of what makes you laugh. Tickling can make you laugh. You can laugh for some different reasons. But when something makes you laugh, that's verbal, or maybe a picture or something you see. Ask yourself, well, why am I laughing? And that helps you understand comedy a little bit. There's a number of theories on, certainly there's an element of surprise sometimes. A lot of people laugh because you're going down a road and all of a sudden it ends this way. You go, oh, I didn't see that coming, or incongruity, exaggeration, imitation, things like that. There's a few different things you can do. But understanding humor and trying to be more sensitive to it or aware of it, appreciate it. I laugh every day, and I can't even imagine people who don't really, laugh a lot. Because my wife is really funny, and we laugh about. Even when we have arguments, we end up laughing about them, and we exaggerate them. But she actually uses using accents. Okay, if you can do imitations of someone's, that can be very humorous, And so
right, well, good for you guys. My wife definitely does not laugh at what I say every single day.
Well, my wife would kill me because I made an observational comment to somebody at a street fair, and the woman was a young woman walking a dog. I said something funny, and she goes, "Oh, that's pretty funny. That's a good dad joke." So I'm like, "Oh, my dad." She said, "Now she labeled everything I say as a dad joke. It drives me crazy.
Right?
That's not a dad joke. That's just funny."
Yeah. She for I think it was the first Father's Day, my wife bought me a book, and it was like every dad's joke ever or something like that.
She's
like, I need to get prepared for it. So here you go. All right, Mike, you've given. I think there's been some doses for sure of practical ways to introduce humor, be better at it. Certainly, even if it's not the hey laugh out loud, belly hurting, side hurting, splitting type of joke, but definitely humor and things like that. But if I just asked you, pretty straightforward, like how can we auditors or anyone else that's listening be better at improv in general? What's summarize the improv class for us, maybe is another way to say this in, a minute and a half or 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, improv is different than stand-up in that, it's more you react to situations being put in. It could be in a scripted scene. It could be very convoluted. But how do you react to something that's new to you? And also improv. I would say I wouldn't call it improv like when you're just able to say something funny that you hear in a conversation. It's a form of improv because you just but you're not telling a joke, right? You're just saying something spontaneous based upon what's happening in front of you. Okay, but that the improv technique where you if you watch that TV show I'm forgetting
Whose
the name
line
of
is it anyway?
My wife and I watch that all the time and we just laugh. A couple of guys are just so funny and but you can do skits like that, and so when I took the improv class, they put us in situations where we had to react. But I think it's really just being quick. You mentioned you have some favorite comics. What I've recommended is if you have a favorite movie, favorite TV show, and things make you laugh, try to memorize what was said. My first I guess comedian that I worshipped was in college. There was Steve Martin, okay, and I could do this whole routine from an album, okay, or Johnny Carson or Rodney Dangerfield. In fact, when I first started doing a stand-up, and I was recorded, I listened to myself, and I was like, man, I sound like Woody Allen with Rodney Dangerfield.
You got a
jokes.
Rodney Dangerfield feel too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I sound like I was surprised how New Yorkish my voice was, but that was kind of funny. So practice, okay, is key if you're going to tell jokes or you're going to try to use humor. If you're going to use it in business, I would try to have it planned out more. So improv in business presentations, I think should be more planned. Okay, although you can react to something, question, and use some humor. But I think improv is more like with your team. You're having discussions. You talk about something funny. You interject. I think everybody enjoys making somebody laugh, right?
Yeah.
And I think everyone probably has made somebody laugh. Even the most introverted person in the world has probably made a friend laugh or a parent laugh, and it always feels good. Okay, not saying that everybody can do it, but I think everybody can increase their awareness and maybe try to use humor a little bit more. Okay, even a very introverted person, they're actually quite good at observational humor because an introverted person tends to listen and observe. And observational humor, you can. I've known some people who are fairly introverted, but when you talk to them, they actually have a good sense of humor. You can tell by some of the things they would say, sometimes sarcastically, whatever, but observationally, and also how they reacted to your humor. Okay,
yeah.
So I wouldn't say if you're not an extrovert, you can't use humor. You can, but you're probably more likely to use it if you're a little more on the extrovert side.
Yeah.
So I say practice. You can do some exercises. Memorize, like I said, some jokes or some scenes. There was one I was memorizing the other day. The scene was angry that day, my friend, like an old man returning soup at a deli. Okay, and so that was from a now I could do it better than that. Okay, but it was from a line in Seinfeld where George was a whale doctor. And So again, just memorize some things and say them out loud, and that gives you some confidence. And sometimes you get things come out like reflex. I have Steve Martin jokes, other jokes that I think are really I just pull out of just like that and claim them as mine.
Nice.
And you mentioned comedians too. Like I find there's a couple of comedians I really love these days. Brad Williams, he's actually a dwarf. But he's funny as hell, and he's not afraid to make fun of himself. But
what was his name? Say his name one more time.
Brad Williams.
Okay.
There's another Canadian guy, Ian Brigg, who is the best. He stands up and he just talks to tables, and he says things that are just so funny, incredibly, just from conversation. Now, most of the comedians they can do that, right?
Yeah.
But his is just extreme and it's consistent, So those are two names I like. But again, I'm a big fan of Johnny Carson and. Steve Martin, Woody Allen,
Yeah, they're on so if you're an XM radio person, I think they're on channel 94 a lot of times.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Like the stand-up greats, I think is what it's called. But it's like those people from, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then even some modern ones, but the ones that are considered like the best over the last couple of years. So it's not just everybody. It's like these are the legends of stand-up comedy. And so those usually the audio's pretty garbage because they're, forever old, but when you can make them out, they are pretty good. I really like the basically take from your environment kind of advice on things that you find humorous in various shows. I've had the same best friend since I was 5 years old. The foundation of our relationship is quotes from Family Guy, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Dumb and Dumber, and Friends. We don't even have conversations. We just quote this stuff that, all the movies and shows we watched together growing up and when we were in college. And that's pretty much it. Like, that's all we do. And again,
I had lunch with my 3 adult sons 2 weeks ago, and we're talking about our favorite movies, comedies. Again, I didn't ask them the older ones, The Holy Grail, Young Frankenstein, which is the best spoof movie I've ever seen. Okay, Blazing Saddles. But one son loves. You mentioned what you just mentioned, Dumb and Dumber. Okay, they're also Step Brothers. They're into that, but then a lot of other things. Yeah. So again, just enjoy humor. Try to use it more. And there are some actually real benefits too. Personal, right? Laughing is healthy. It's good for your body, relieves stress. Okay. And then from a business point of view, I find again, having a good sense of humor makes you more approachable, makes you seem more empathetic, makes you seem more creative sometimes. People in leadership roles who use humor, it helps their ability to lead. If you can find humor in a tough situation, people really appreciate that. So again, humor has a lot of benefits, and whether you use it, a hell of a lot more or just a little bit more, I think you can enjoy it.
Yeah, so you mentioned Blazing Saddles. I was at a bar, this like hipster bar. They had Blazing Saddles on the TV. It was it's a bar, it was loud, but they had the closed captions on. I just watched the movie the whole time. For like 30 minutes, I just sat there and read the closed captions and watched the movie the whole time. I'm like, I'll just do this, and then I'll catch up with you guys later. I'm pretty into the movie. But,
Cheers was my favorite. That was favorite for a long time.
Which one was?
Cheers.
I watched it a ton growing up. It came on like the CW, or I don't know what it was called then, but I think Cheers came on at like 9 and 9:30, or maybe Frasier did. But it was like Cheers, Frasier, and then my dad. It's like a huge Andy Griffith fan, so I know it came on at 10 and 10:30 every night on that channel, and we watched it. The whole family, like, we watched that show. That was probably
reruns. I think you were looking at. Because I watched the first run, and it was on NBC. I think 8:30 to 9, and I think Taxi was on, but before that, I think. But right after Cheers was Magnum PI, so I watched 2 hours of TV straight.
Yeah, these were definitely reruns. I think Cheers, I might have been like 3 when it ended or something like that.
Yeah.
So they were definitely reruns. But like, I love the, you dropped some comic recommendations also, some stand-ups that people might know about. I know you had introduced me to, I think it was the Ian one. And I watched that as soon as we got done off the call. Like, I pulled it up on YouTube and spent 45 minutes watching stand-up instead of doing my job. So,
I find going to YouTube and just putting in a comedian's name. I think you see short clips. It's not like you have to watch the whole thing. But it's really pretty funny. Sebastian, what's his name?
Janikowski.
I watched that on the HBO thing last weekend. Hysterical.
His show, he's got a show. I just saw the advertisement for that last night. When I was watching whatever the thing about the Chicago Bears is, Hard Knocks. I was watching Hard Knocks. They did an advertisement for it. So okay, all right. With all that said, I appreciate the recommendations on the comedians. I stole a couple of your jokes and stories. I'm going to definitely use those for myself. And even some movie recommendations for those that haven't watched any of the movies that Mike and I both talked about, or even some of the shows. They are funny. Pull them up, watch them, and enjoy them. With that said, though, Mike, take us out. What do you want to leave the audience with?
Well, I mean, just I'll leave the audience at in 2 points. One about using humor at work, and one is to advance your career, but also career advice, right? I picked a career that most people wouldn't think I fit the stereotype, right? But there were a lot of good things about internal auditing, problem solving, meeting a lot of people. I always like to meet new people. Looking at new processes, not doing the same thing every time. And so I really felt that it's been a great profession for me. Now, not always, there's a profession to satisfy all your needs. So you might have some other creative needs. I did find that I could use humor a lot, and that helped. I also have an artistic side. So doing presentations, PowerPoints, I use a little bit of my artistic sides also. but I felt I couldn't use that as much as I wanted to. So I kept my profession, and I took some art courses on the side, during my career, in my 30s and 40s. You won't find a perfect, unicorn for a career, I think, and so you have to supplement that, and don't be afraid to do that, and don't be afraid to invest some time, even money, to make sure you feel some shortfalls, so you're doing something about it. You'll feel a lot better when you hit 60 and beyond. So I'd like to give that as advice. But also humor, makes you feel good, makes other people laugh. It's great for teams to bond more. And again, if you can use it at the right levels, you could be much more persuasive, much more seen as a human being. Someone they want to listen to. I mentioned my executive committee stuff. That executive committee joke, I was really happy to get that laugh, right? But when one of the CEOs, who was actually kind of curmudgeon and kind of a tough guy, when he said, "Oh, in that case, you'll only need 3 minutes," I felt even better because they were engaged, and they were all just laughing. So again, try to work humor into your career if you can. There's real competitive advantages if you can. Not everyone can, but you can all try. And if you can't do more on your side, appreciate it more. We're on teams or we working with different people. If they say something funny, it's a great chance to laugh and bond. So, like you said, I have friends from kindergarten that I still see, and what really bonds me long term with people is humor. Okay? One of my good friends, he drives trucks. He dropped out of college, but when we get together, our humor is what bonds us. Our life experiences are very different, And but my best friends, probably a combination of humor and trust. That really leads to, I think, long-term friendships.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Audit Podcast. Whatever platform you're listening on right now, I'm sure there's a subscribe button somewhere, so please hit the subscribe button there. If you're listening through iTunes or Spotify, feel free to go give us that 5-star rating. It only took me about 16 seconds to give myself a 5-star review, and it really helps to get future guests to come on the show, so we'd really appreciate that. Lastly, be sure to check out the show notes and follow us on all our social media channels, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on TikTok. Also, if interested, please sign up for our weekly newsletter from the Audit Podcast. Thank you all. Have a great one.